The American Issue: The Fight Against the 18th Amendment's Repeal. In the early 20th century, the United States embarked on a unique experiment with the ratification of the 18th Amendment, which prohibited the manufacture, sale, and transportation of intoxicating liquors. The American Issue, a publication pivotal in anti-repeal movements in its May edition, presented a staunch defense against the potential repeal of this amendment. This historical document not only encapsulates the societal tensions of its time, but also serves as a testament to the power of political activism. Prohibition and its discontents. Prohibition, instituted in 1920, was the culmination of a century-long campaign led by temperance activists who saw alcohol as the root cause of social problems. The subsequent implementation of the Volstead Act provided the federal government with the tools to enforce this constitutional directive. Yet, despite the idealistic ambitions of its advocates, the law's efficacy was increasingly questioned. By the 1930s, the Great Depression had reshaped national priorities, and the prohibition of alcohol appeared more a luxury of morality than a necessity of the state. Facts to Combat Repeal: A Siren Call. The American Issue's detailed discourse titled Facts to Combat Repeal outlined the fundamental arguments for maintaining the national ban on alcohol. The document warned of a regressive step towards the old American vices, predicting an increase in crime, corruption, and moral decay. It boldly began by outlining the supposed consequences of repealing the 18th Amendment. The repeal was portrayed not as a liberation from an unpopular law, but as a capitulation to the liquor lobby and a betrayal of public health and safety. The document was resolute in its message that a return to the saloon culture was a return to a less civilized and more dangerous society. Political promises and public trust. A significant portion of the argument hinged on political integrity. The publication lamented that political parties had forsaken their pledges to fight the liquor problem and accused them of succumbing to the pressures of a beleaguered economy and the influential liquor industry. One notable feature of the document was its emphasis on ratification by conventions rather than legislative decree. This preference reflected a deeper belief in direct democracy and public involvement, suggesting that such a monumental decision should not be left solely to legislators, but to conventions where the public's voice could be more directly heard. Inevitable effects of repeal. The American Issue further warned of the inevitable effects of repeal, such as an increase in criminal activities associated with the liquor trade and a spike in domestic disputes and public disorder. It also suggested economic impacts such as the loss of revenue from enforcement and the potential for job losses in industries that had risen during Prohibition. Enforcement challenges and states' rights. The publication delved into the multifaceted challenges of enforcing the Volstead Act, acknowledging that while the state option had been unsuccessful, the answer was not to abandon the project, but to reform and strengthen the laws. It called for a return to state regulation which could cater to the moral and social fabric of each community individually. Bipartisan support for temperance. Despite the polarization of the era, the document showcased that opposition to the repeal was not confined to one political party. Both Republicans and Democrats had, at various times, supported the temperance cause, reflecting a bipartisan consensus that the welfare of the nation was inherently tied to the sobriety of its citizens. The saloon, a symbol of division. The American issue touched on the saloon as the focal point of the repeal debate. The saloon was portrayed not merely as a place of alcohol consumption, but as the nexus of corruption, vice, and social decay. The publication's discourse suggested that the return of the saloon was not just about the return of alcohol, but the return of an institution that threatened the moral fabric of the nation. Final thoughts. As the country edged toward the ratification of the 21st Amendment, the American issue stood as a clarion call for those who believed that prohibition was not a failed experiment, but a noble cause that needed refinement rather than rejection. Today, the repeal of the 18th Amendment is often seen as an acknowledgement of the government's overreach into personal liberties and the inefficacy of such blanket bans. However, publications like The American Issue remind us of the complexity of historical narratives and the fervor with which individuals and groups have sought to shape the moral arc of American society. The battle lines drawn in these pages are a reminder of the enduring struggle between individual liberty and societal good, a debate that continues to shape policy discussions to this day. The Prohibition era, with all its controversies and conflicts, remains a pivotal chapter in the American story, one that still offers valuable lessons on governance, civic responsibility, and the never-ending pursuit of a more perfect union. Thank you for listening. For enthusiasts of historical ephemera, visit history-collectors.com to find collectibles that might complement your collection. You can own a piece of history. Before you go, a simple way to support the efforts of this channel is to like, subscribe, comment, and share.